press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Adda 247. बेल आइकन दबाइए, अड्डा 247 की सारी नोटिफिकेशंस पाइए। अड्डा 247, गवर्नमेंट जॉब इन योर पॉकेट।
Hi friends, welcome to the Hindu Editorial Analysis of 17th of March, and I am Saurabh. This is the English version of the Hindu Editorial Analysis. If you want the Hindi version of the editorial analysis, you'll also get the same, and the link will be there in the comment section or the description box. Well, my dear friends, as we do it regularly, let's take a look at the motivational quote first of all that we have here for you. So always be yourself, express yourself, and have faith in yourself. Do not go out and look for a successful personality and duplicate it. Well, these are the words of the great Bruce Lee. Now, my dear friends, what he means to say over here, you'll always be the best at first of somebody, then be a second copy of somebody else. Alright, my dear friends, so always try to be yourself, always try to improve yourself, always have faith in yourself that you can definitely achieve something in life, that you can definitely become something of worth in life. Alright, do not try to copy anybody else, try to become the first copy of yourself only. Well, my dear friends, let's go back to the center screen once again. So, with these positive words, now let's take a look at the overall view of the e-paper that we have here for you. So, see, here's the e-paper for you. Now, my dear friends, the self-blinding Russian prism. So, this is the first article that we have here today. Now, this particular article, by the way, my dear friends, is actually a very important article, we can say that. Now, this particular thing, see, this article is actually an important article from IR point of view, that's your international relation point of view. So, this is a very important article, my dear friends, and definitely we are going to analyze this particular article as well. Now, at left over here, you can find Andhra Triangle. Now, see, this is a pretty important political article. So, all those of you who are civil aspirants, do take a look at this for sure. Now, let's go down. Then we have got the long fight against TB. Now, my dear friends, let me tell you, this is a very, very important article. And we have to analyze this because since it's about our health, you know. And see, health-related articles are very important for bank, SSC, civil, CLAT, and CTET, all the aspirants, my dear friends. That is why we are going to take a look at this article for sure. We shall analyze this for sure. Then I left over here, a perfect attack. So this is regarding a thaw between UK and Russia, my dear friends. So this is actually a pretty important article once again from IR point of view. And for all the civil aspirants, you should definitely take a look at this particular article. Now, well, then the next one over here is red earth and fine dust. Well, this is actually regarding the sand mafia. It's about regarding illegal sand mining. And all those of you, my dear friends, who are definitely for the preparing for civil, this is a pretty good article. Do go through this article for sure. I think this is today's most important article for civil aspirants. So they have to go through this article for sure. Now let's come back to the center screen once again, my dear friends. So we just took the overall review of what are the most important articles, and now, my dear friends, it's time for us to take a look at what's the first and the foremost article that we should analyze for today. And by the way, as I told you, health is wealth, my dear friends. And definitely, having said that, we have to start from the article. We have to start from the article that actually is about health. So here comes the first article that we have today. Now, science borrows words from common parlance as science quantifiable meanings. Okay, for example, significance in biostatistics measured by p-value clarifies if a study result is reliable or mere chance finding. In evidence, incidence in epidemiology is rare. New cases per unit population per time. But now, understand over here. So, science perhaps this in the beginning over here, we're talking about the terminology of science, nothing else. Now, let's understand more what's there in this particular thing. Well, the incidence rate of tuberculosis, TB in India is estimated at 200 to 300 cases per 100,000 population per year. As a comparison, in Western Europe, it is 5 per 100,000 per year. So perhaps, you know, as far as TB rate is concerned, TB in India is actually way more than it is in Europe. And perhaps if in Europe, you'll find 5 people in 1 lakh having TB. In India, you'll find 200 to 300 people having TB in a lakh. So that's actually quite huge if we compare both the numbers. Now, let's understand more over here. Control in public health is deliberate reduction of incidence to be desired and defined level by specific intervention. interventions. Now this is a particular theory over here, and that is control, by the way, especially in public health, is actually a deliberate an action, and actually it's a reduction that's done deliberately with intention of the reduction of incidence to a desired level and defined level by a specific intervention. So when you say something is under control, when you actually have the desired effects, is actually a more of a after effect of a particular of a particular thing when you have tried to apply some mechanics, and and you've succeeded, all right, and you've succeeded in bringing it under control. Only then you can say that. Now, without monitoring incidence and defining the desired target, the revised National TB Control Program, RNTCP, is not a valid control program, but a great humanitarian program of free diagnosis and treatment. Well, now, without monitoring incidences, so there is absolutely no monitoring, and without having any desired target, the revised National TB Control Program, or known as RNTCP, is actually not at all a valid control program, because there's no target, there's no way of monitoring. So how can it be a valid program? But a great humanitarian program for free diagnosis and treatment. But on the other side, on the positive side, RNTCP does provide free diagnosis and also free treatment. So my dear friends, I think that you would have got the opening idea over here. What are we going to talk about in this particular paragraph and this particular article? Now let's see what do we have in here as question number 1 and question number 2. So let's see question number 1 first. Now, what do you think is the synonym for the word quantifiable? And the options are imperceptible, undeterminable, and calculable, and insignificant. Well, my dear friends, insignificant means something which is not important at all. Calculable means something which can be calculated. Undeterminable means which cannot be determined at all. What's the number? All right, what's the quantity? It cannot be determined. Then imperceptible, something which cannot be even perceived. Well, I think till now you would have applied the answer, my dear. I hope you have done for sure. Well, it's the answer over here. The synonym for the word quantifiable has to be option number 3, calculable. Okay, because quantifiable also means which is a when you can put something into a particular number, into a particular quantity, and the same thing is with calculable as well. So you can write in the comment section quantifiable equals to calculable. Quantifiable equals to calculable, because quantifiable and calculable both means when you can actually define something in numbers. Hence quantifiable equals to calculable. Okay, now so let's come back to the e-paper. Oh, no, not come back to the e-paper. Let's have a look at the next question that we have here for you. I am sure you will be able to answer this one as well. So now here's the next question for you. Now, which of the following is not true according to para 1? So see, statement A is here. Science borrows words from common parlance and assigns quantifiable meanings. Did we read just this or not? Then statement B says the incidence rate of tuberculosis in India is estimated at 2,000 to 3,000 cases per 100,000 population per year. Then statement C says control in public health is deliberate reduction of incidence to a desired and defined level by specific interventions. Now, you have to tell us which of the following is not true according to para 1. Now see, when you take a look at all of these statements, of course, when it comes to not true, it has to be statement B, option number 2. I hope you chose the same, my dear friends, right? Anyway, the correct answer over here is option number 2, or only B. Now, my dear friends, let's come back to the e-paper and let's understand more about over here. So, India's estimated annual TB burden is 28 lakhs, 27% of the global total, whereas our population is only 18%. Now, every day, 1,200 Indians die of TB, 10 every 3 minutes. The tragedy 1,200 families face every day is beyond imagination. Now, so perhaps TB is something which we really need to focus a lot, because see, of all the patients in the world who are suffering from TB, 27% are people who suffer from TB in the whole world, whereas our population is only 18% of the entire world comparatively. Now, every day 1,200 Indians die every day of TB, and 10 every 3 minutes. So till the time, in fact, just if we just go by the time of this particular article, I am sure many of many of our friends and brothers and our fellow Indians would have died till now from the start and till now, by the way. So because the reason being that 10 Indians every minute die from TB. So that's really very, very sad. Now, no other disease, no other disease or calamity has such a Himalayan magnitude. Had control effects registered even past grade, we would not have become the TB capital of the world. So because of these numbers, we can very clearly state that we are now the TB capital of the world. But had we even tried to get a simple grace mark percentage, had our programs tried to even get the grace mark percentage, still we wouldn't have scored so badly as far as TB is concerned. Now, let's understand more over here. Know the enemy. So let's understand what exactly and how exactly does this thing happen, does TB happen, does it spread. Now, infection with TB bacilli is the necessary cause of TB. A disease that mimics other diseases, confuses doctors and delaying diagnosis. Cough and blood and sputum occur only in lung TB. Now, so in fact, infection with TB bacilli, is actually the necessary and the important cause of TB. A disease that often copies other diseases, confuses the doctors and also delays the diagnosis. Well, whereas cough and blood, in the sputum, it occur only when it's a lung TB. Now, for example, a young man developed headache and began making silly mistakes in arithmetic. He had brain TB and treatment cured him. All right, so TB is something that can happen almost everywhere, anywhere in the body, I suppose. So perhaps let's see. There was a young man, for example, let's take an instance of a young man, who developed headache and began to make silly mistakes in arithmetic. All right. He, by the way, had brain TB, and since it was identified, he was cured regarding the same. Now, then again, well, pelvic TB is the commonest cause of females' infertility in India. TB can affect the lungs, the brains, bones, joints, and the liver, intestines, for that matter, or any organ, and can progress slowly and kill in weeks. So perhaps, pelvic TB is the most common cause why a lot of females, by the way, in our nation cannot become mothers, And TB, by the way, can affect the lungs, the brain, the bones, the joints, and the liver, intestines, or for that matter, any organ, that can progress slowly and kill in weeks. Okay, so this is something that is damn serious, and we seriously need to understand and deal with this. I hope, my dear friends, you got the message over here. Now let's see what do we have here in question number 3 and 4. So here's question number 3 for you. Now, what's the synonym for the word mimic, my dear friends, from the options of simulate, direct, idle, or prevent? Well, prevent means, making sure some particular thing does not happen at all. Ideal, idle means, there's no movement, so that's idle. Direct means absolutely directly. Then simulate, once again, means to copy. So you have to give me a synonym for the word mimic. Well, it has to be, my dear friends, option number 1, simulate. So mimic equals to simulate. Write in the comment section, mimic equals to simulate. Why? Because both mimic and simulate means to copy something or someone. Okay, so it has to be mimic equals to simulate. Now, so let's see what's question number 4 that we have here for you, my dear friends. Okay, now which of the following is true according to para over here? So India's estimated annual TB burden is 28,27% of the global total. Then, statement B says, had control efforts registered even past grade, we wouldn't have become the TB capital of the country. Then statement C says, infection with TB bacilli is the additional cause of TB, a disease that mimics other diseases, confusing doctors and delaying diagnosis. Well, now see, over here, we had actually to identify which of the following are true statements. If you look at C, that says infection with TB bacilli is the additional cause, whereas it was a necessary cause and not additional cause. On the other hand, if you take a look at statement B, it says, we have become the TB capital of the country, whereas it should have been the TB capital of the world. Hence, over here, B and C are definitely not true, which means, my dear friends, only one option over here is actually true. And yes, it has to be option number 1. I hope you chose option number 1 only as your answer, my dear friends. 4th-1, that's the answer for this particular question. Now, my dear friends, I hope that you were able to understand what exactly is the message over here regarding the first article of today's editorial. Now let's see what's there in the second article that we have here for you. So, the self-blighting Russia prism. Alright, so the Russian collusion narrative in the US has rendered any diplomacy between the two countries impossible. So perhaps, so it's more like the self-blinding Russian prism. See, the thing is that the way that US, the people in America, the Americans they have blamed the Russians for meddling in elections. It actually has almost stopped any kind of direct diplomacy between America and Russia. Now let's understand more what's there over here. See, many have been quick to conclude that it was his strong anti-Russia position that led to Rex Tillerson's dismissal as the U.S. Secretary of State by President Donald Trump on March 13. The nerve agent used to poison a former Russian spy and his daughter in Britain on March 4 clearly came from Russia, Mr. Tillerson had said, while the White House was more guarded initially. Now, see, the thing over here is that, I suppose you know about this. Recently, the U.S. Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, he was fired by President Donald Trump on March 13. And by the way, well, if you want to know that what exactly happened, well, Rex Tillerson was pretty much anti-Russia, and that was pretty clear from his words only. And speaking at a particular thing, of a particular incident, and he had said recently that a nerve agent was used as a poison, and it was used to poison a former Russian spy and his daughter, in Britain on March 4, and it clearly came for Russia. So he had said absolutely bluntly, and Mr. Tillerson has said this, while the White House, while the Americans were initially, they were more guarded and they were not so blunt. On the other hand, whereas Rex Tillerson was very clearly blunt. That's why perhaps he would have got fired. Anyway, it sets a profoundly disturbing precedent in which standing up for our allies against Russian aggression is grounds for humiliation dismissal. Humiliation dismissal, said, House Representative Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. So Nancy Pelosi said, it's actually about setting up a precedent, and precedent is being set over here. An example is being set over here in which standing up for the allies against Russia, is grounds for a humiliating dismissal. So the minority leader, the House of Representative Minority Leader, Nancy Pelosi, she had said that if the Americans, if they stand up for their allies and they try to blame Russia for any particular thing, then they get fired, they lose their jobs. So perhaps something is going wrong over here. Anyway, let's see what do we have as question number 5 and number 6, and then we'll see what can be done. Okay guys, so here's question number 5 for you, my dear friends. It's okay, so what's the antonym for the word elusive over here? The options are slippery, subtle, illusory, and intelligible. Now see, intelligible means something which cannot be understood at all. Illusory, once again, something which gives you a lot of illusion. Then subtle, something which is very something which is very simple to understand. All right. On the other hand, slippery, once again, is something which cannot be understood very, very well. And in fact, intelligible is also meaning, that's something which can be understood pretty easily. That's also the meaning. Whereas, subtle is very simple, and also it is also used to hide something in the sense of that, very subtly doing something. When you do something in such a simple way that it cannot be seen or understood. So that's the thing. Now, so elusive, the correct antonym for the word elusive has to be option number 4, intelligible. Now see, because elusive means to do something in a hidden manner, whereas intelligible is meaning to to do something that can be understood in a very clear manner. So that's why it has to be the antonym over here. So now let's move on. Let's see what do we have here. Question number 6, which most probably is going to be a parajumble. So let's see about that. So yes, it's a beautiful parajumble, my dear friends, and I'm sure that you shall be able to give the answer for this parajumble. See, it's a very simple, a beautiful, I suppose, a 7-sentencer over here. Okay, no, it's an 8-sentencer. Simply do one thing, pause the video, try to find the first statement, then try to find the logical pairs, and then try to align all of these sentences. Okay, guys? So pause the video and try rearranging this. Okay, I hope you tried rearranging that after pausing the video. Now let's see what's the answer, my dear friends. Okay, it's GAH F, D, B, E, C. Now, it starts from D that says, many have been quick to conclude that it was a strong anti-Russia position that led to Rex Tillerson's dismissal as U.S. Secretary of State, by President Donald Trump on March 13. The nerve agent used to poison whom? A former Russian spy and his daughter in Britain on March 4. Clearly came from Russia, Mr. Tillerson had said, while the White House was more guarded initially. Then what happened? Why was this done? Why was he fired? It sets a profoundly disturbing precedent in which, a standing up for our allies against Russian aggression is actually grounds for a humiliating dismissal, said House of Representatives Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. So perhaps, this is something that's going on over here. Now, before I go to the next two questions, I think you should come back to the e-paper and let's understand this a little more. So, the Trump singularity. Now, history that had been declared ended appears to have started all over again for the U.S. on November 8, 2016, when Mr. Trump won the presidency. The mainstream punditry in America that missed that revolt around him initially blamed Mr. Trump's victory on the lack of education, racism, and misogyny of his supporters. So, the thing is that, on November 8, 2016, when India was suffering from demonetization, Mr. Donald Trump, by the way, became the president of America. And in fact, it was more like a 51-49% decision, and he just won by 1%. But anyway, his victory was actually, many people said, in fact, the main intelligentsia of America, they actually said that this particular victory of Donald Trump is because of lack of education, racism, and also the misogyny of the supporters of Donald Trump. But the revival of the cult of liberal capital, of the liberal capitalism appeared elusive. It needed visions of a demon at the door. So perhaps, but the way in which a liberal capitalism can again come back because of him, that actually remained elusive. So perhaps, there was a demon at the door of US who was going to enter there, but nobody could see it very clearly. Now, enter Russia. Mr. Trump's suspected ties with Russia and its President Vladimir Putin have remained the obsessive theme of American media almost every day for more than a year now. Mr. Pelosi's explanation of Mr. Tillerson's sacking would have fitted perfectly in the bizarre notion with that has become a new Washington consensus, a president allegedly helping into office by the country's arch enemy, but for the fact that until recently, Mr. Tillerson himself was accused of being soft on Russia. So perhaps, now a lot of discussion has been going on in the American media because the thing that, that President, Donald Trump is pretty close to President Vladimir Putin, and because of that, they would have colluded together, and because of which President Donald Trump came to power. And recently, after Mr. Tillerson got fired, the way Ms. Pelosi has explained the position, it makes the situation even more clearer, and the way in which this whole scenario is going, I think it's going to go to chaos anyway. So guys, I hope you got the main idea over here. Let's come back to the question that we have over here, the question number 7 and 8 that we have, my dear friends. Now, so these are board spotting error questions. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to answer, my dear friends. So question number 7 says, history that had been declared ended appears to have started all over again for the US on November 8, 2016, when Trump won for presidency. So what do you think, guys, is the error in question number 7? Pause the video and tell me that. Well, I hope you pause the video. It's going to be in part number 4, where it's written Mr. Trump won the presidency. It should be W-O-N and not 1 in number. Okay, that's the error, question number 7. Question number 8, just take a look over here. The revival of the cult of liberal capitalism appeared elusive. It needed vision of a demon at the door. So, full stop, find the error. What's the error in question number 8 and pause the video. Well, I hope you paused, my dear friends. Now see, over here, it needed vision of a demon would mean it needed the vision of a demon or the demon's vision. But by the way, over here, it means to visualize. It needed to visualize a demon at the door. So because of that, it needed visions of a demon at the door. Because over here, visions would mean to visualize a demon at the door, whereas vision of a demon mean the way in which a demon looks, the vision of a particular demon. Okay, so that's the answer over here, and I hope, my dear friend, that you enjoyed today's editorial, because that was all. Now we can remove the PPT. So that was all, my dear friends, in today's editorial analysis, and I hope that you loved the same. Like the video if you really like the editorial analysis. Do comment your feedback and also share this with your friends so that we are able to reach every nook and corner of the nation. And that's why we proudly say that with a 247, government job is right in your pocket. Thank you, my dear friends.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Adda 247. बेल आइकन दबाइए, अड्डा 247 की सारी नोटिफिकेशंस पाइए. Adda 247, गवर्नमेंट जॉब इन योर पॉकेट.